Hello, and welcome to the Core Dog Experience. We're here to talk Ohio State Buckeyes and college sports from the fans' point of view. So if you're feeling what you're hearing, please hit that like button. And if you're enjoying the content, please subscribe. Go down the rabbit hole and check a brother out. Give a brother a chance. Trying to grow this thing out. Trying to grow it out and do more in 2024. So yes, so help a brother out. Like, subscribe. Y'all know the deal. So let's get into it. March Madness is over. It has come and gone. I was excited. The Big Ten had two teams in the finals. Ohio State notwithstanding, but we had two teams up in the finals. So I was rooting for the Big Ten, and we won a big O for 2. Big O for 2. So let's start with the men's game, because ain't much to say about the men's game. The men's championship game. We made it there. That's the best we can say. The Big Ten finally got a team there. Purdue, and wasn't much of a contest. UConn blew them out. Do we really got to talk about that game? I don't know. But UConn, they go back to back, and again, the Big Ten, we got there. And I was rooting for them, but history was not on our side. We haven't won. When's the last time Big Ten's won a championship? Got to go all the way back to 2000 at Michigan State. That's the last time the Big Ten actually won the NCAA basketball championship. Now I know we mainly known for football when it comes to the big two sports, but 2000 was the last time a Big Ten team actually won the NCAA championship. And just quite frankly, our history is not good. It's pretty pathetic to be one of the major conferences moving forward. You think we have a better track record in basketball. The men's side, we haven't done well. Like I said, last time a Big Ten team won the NCAA championship was back in 2000. And since then, we've gotten there a few times, 8 times to be exact, but we've lost all 8, with Purdue being the latest one to go down in defeat to UConn. And you see the list here. I mean, we've gotten close. Ohio State, they had a chance way back in the day. Remember that 2007 season? Not only did we lose to Florida in football, we came back and lost to them at basketball too. Those are the Greg Oden years and Mike Conley years. We just couldn't get no help. Oden couldn't get no help. I remember that game. But Big Ten basketball, we haven't been able to do it. Like I said, Michigan State, the Mateen Cleaves team. Remember that team? Mo Pete, Jason Richardson. That was a good team. It was the last team for the Big Ten to win it. You think we would have some better success since then, but we just have not been able to do it on the basketball court. Like I said, moving forward, super conferences, you think that might change some, being that we're going to be one of the big two when it's all said and done, when the dust is settled. You think we might be able to have some better basketball results. We're bringing in UCLA. They might be able to win. They more of a basketball school than a football school, so hopefully, hey, you can't win it, go bring a team in who can, and UCLA might be able to win one. For all we know, expansion ain't done yet. Talk about that another time, but bring in some schools that might win something in basketball. I'm just saying we got football covered. Basketball and football are the two big sports. We got to do better in basketball. But yeah, our history on the men's side is bad. And Purdue, they didn't do us no favors this year. Thought Zach Edey would have done a little bit better. Purdue would have done a little bit better. But UConn, they go back to back. So hats off to UConn. Congrats to UConn. I think it was evident They got more NBA players on their roster than Purdue has on theirs, and I think that was end of the story right there. Wasn't much of a contest as the game got going. It is what it is on the men's side. Not much to talk about in terms of that game. The ladies thing. Are we done with the men? Yeah, we done with the men. With the men done with all they could do this year. Kudos to getting there. We gotta be able to show better on the men's side than what we've been doing in basketball. On to the women's game. Yeah, we done with the men's. We done with the men's. The women's game. Now, honestly, this is the game folks wanted to see. I think the viewership showed that. It wasn't even close, actually. 18, almost 19 million viewers for the women's game as opposed to the 15 million for the men's game. First time the women's game got more viewership than the men's game, and I think deservedly so. A lot more storylines going on there, simply because we knew the player. Going back to the men's game, outside of Zach Edey, I didn't know none of the players. I knew the players on the women's teams. So you know what? I got to learn them over the years. You know, if any guys are good, they gone after 1 year. You don't get to learn them. But the women's teams games, you got to know the players. Most notably, everyone knew who Caitlynn Clark was. There's more players in the women's game that folks knew. You knew who was on LSU squad with Haley Van Lith. You know Angel Reese. We know the players. I said Juju Watkins made her splash early in the season, and she was consistently on. And the women's game, in particular, this season, in large part because of Caitlynn Clark and what she was able to do, there's just more eyes on the women's game. It's more fun to watch, more viewable, and again, I knew more of the women's players throughout the league, throughout the college league, than I did on the men's side. It was more interesting to watch. Outside of Ohio State's roster, and Zach Edey, I didn't know none of the men's. I didn't learn UConn's players until I watched the Final Four. That's who's on UConn's team. Women's game, I knew players on multiple teams because the women were highlighted throughout the season. And again, in large part to Miss Caitlynn Clark and what she brought to the women's game. And let me first say, not the first, but she's fun to watch. Let's be real. Caitlynn Clark is fun to watch. The viewership was up because of her, and she and the ladies delivered this year. If you haven't been watching ladies basketball, you should have been watching it. I've been a fan of it going way back to the Katie Smith era when she first burst on the scene. So that's how long I've been watching women's basketball, and I'm glad it's getting the recognition it's finally getting. And Caitlynn was a big reason for that. Because of Caitlynn, we got a lot of new viewers watching the women's game. and all of it may not be a basketball related. Let's just be real. I mean, we all know what happened last year during the Iowa LSU game and the Angel Reese, Caitlynn Clark stuff. That brought a lot of new faces, a lot of new people to the game. And again, all of it may not have been for basketball reasons, but it is what it is, and hopefully those viewers got to come in, see a good game, and they will return and keep watching, because I do think the ladies' games deserve that. The viewership, hopefully it will remain now that Caitlynn will be moving on to the WNBA. But like I say, you had Caitlynn Clark, Haley Van Lith, Angel Reese, Paige Beckers, J.C. Sheldon, Cody McMahon, Hannah Hidalgo, Allison Pele, Cameron Brink, just so many female players. And you name a guy player, like I said, out to Zach Edey, and that's only because he played for Purdue and he's in the Big Ten and they talked about him a lot. And the only other player comes off my is Bronny James. If his name was Bronny Washington, would we know who Bronny James was? Nope. That's how much little I know about the men's game as opposed to years past where I knew players from multiple teams. You had the Fab Five. For you Michigan fans, the Fab Five, this comes from Ohio State, man. The Fab Five is one of my all-time favorite teams. I have to admit, I loved watching the Fab Five back in the day. I loved watching Big Ten basketball back in the day. Had those Illinois squads with BJ, Kendall Gill, Marcus Liberty. Had the big dog at Purdue. We had some teams, Jim Jackson. We had some teams back in the day. I knew the players. I knew the North Carolina players. I knew the Duke players, Georgetown players. You knew the players because they stuck around for more than 1 year. They good now. They leave after their freshman year, and you don't get to learn them. You don't get that turnover. You don't get those rivalries that you have now in the women's game because they have to stay. And maybe the NIL money, maybe more of these guys will stay now. We'll see how that plays out. But on the women's side, I knew a lot more of the players on the women's side, and I think that was also helped led to the viewership. And again, I do think the little Angel Reese, Caitlynn Clark dust up last year brought a lot of more eyes to the game of to the women's game. And again, all of it may not have been so much basketball related, but it is what it is. You got the viewership up, and I think the ladies delivered and gave folks a good brand of basketball, good entertaining brand of basketball, and hopefully they will keep coming to the and keep watching them because I do think they deserve all the accolades that they've gotten this year. Again, Caitlynn Clark is a phenomenal player. I say I would pay to watch her play, but the tickets got too expensive. Got to pay to watch her play because she's that good. She's that good. And she did bring a lot of stuff to the basketball for female basketball. Tremendous offensive player. Her deep shot, may not have been the best percentage shooter, let's be honest, but she can make the deep ball. And she had to carry the load. And I'm glad Dawn Staley took the time to recognize that at the time that she did. At first, when she did it and was congratulating Caitlynn Clark and hailing her accolades and giving her the praise, I was like, why are you doing it? But more I thought about it, I'm glad she's doing it at that point in time while all the eyes are still on her, while the confetti is falling, as opposed to waiting during press conference where not many folks will be watching. Take that time, acknowledge what Caitlynn has brought to the game in terms of viewership, and I'm glad she did that. And I think it's a real class act on her part because, quite frankly, had that been a male coach, I'm not sure a male coach would have taken the time to do that. I think Dawn recognized it. She plays the women's game. She's a female. Caitlynn was good for the game. There's no doubt about that. Caitlynn was good for the game, and she did carry a heavy load this year. Again, going back to the Angel Reese, Caitlynn Clark thing from last year, a lot of folks and a lot of heavy burden was put on Caitlynn Clark's shoulder. And she played phenomenal throughout the whole year. Every time she stepped on the court, it seemed like another record was being broken. People were looking to her to do stuff and uphold the women's game. Unjustly or not, but she was the face of women's basketball this year, maybe of all the basketball this year, was Caitlynn Clark. I don't think any male person would even come close to the type of burden she had to carry this year. So I'm glad Coach Staley took the time following the game while the confetti's still falling, while everyone's still locked in on her, that she took the time to recognize that. I think Caitlynn Clark was good for the ladies' game. It's going to be interesting to see if those viewers stick around for next year, because I do think there are stars for folks that come back in and keep watching. Like I say, Juju Watkins, Hannah Hidalgo, Paige Becker's coming back. There's Haley Van Lith, she's coming back. So it's a lot of players for folks that are familiar with, we know, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out next year. So good for her. The one thing, though, before I get into the actual game that I am disappointed with is the coverage. Again, we know Caitlynn Clark was the driving force behind everything. But at the end of the day, Iowa lost the game. Like I said, we went 0 for 2. Iowa, they lost the game. You would have thought more coverage would have been given to the team that actually won the game. So I was disappointed. It was more about how Iowa lost. Iowa's team was making all the covers of stuff. And here you have the South Carolina team that went undefeated with 5 brand new starters, and I I didn't think they'd do it, but as the year wore on, it was like, who's going to beat them? I did say Iowa or one of the Big Ten teams would be able to do it. Indiana, I think, gave Carolina a good game, and Iowa, they gave them a good game. But that Carolina, that's just a good team, well coached team. I put emphasis on team, and I thought that team and what they accomplished this year, what Don Staley accomplished this year, should have got a little bit more run than what they did. It should have been more about South Carolina winning, not so much about Iowa and Caitlynn Clark losing. Because what that team accomplished is difficult because there were some talented teams this year and they could not stop South Carolina. The game itself, Clark came out hot. She was on fire. Everyone was going crazy, tweeting left and right. LeBron James was tweeting. Everybody was tweeting. She's on fire. Everyone was going she broke another record. Records, like I said, every time she steps on the court, she breaks a record, it seems. But I was like, no. Did y'all not see my previous video when it comes to Iowa and her scoring? I said I thought that was the worst possible start for Iowa when she came out and got 18 first quarter points. I was like, y'all don't know it, but y'all just lost. Like I previously said, against inferior opponents, against lesser teams, when Clark does that, it's fine because the other teams do not have the talent to compete with that. But against the better teams, when she comes out scoring and she has to score at that clip or that rate, it's not sustainable in their losses this year. That proved to be the case. I mean, she ran out of steam against Ohio State when they lost. Against Indiana, they took her completely out the game. Nebraska, we know she just didn't want to score in Nebraska. Let's be honest, she just didn't want to score. Or they wanted to break that record at home. But anyway. But I was like, you cannot. When she came out like that, I was like, you want to be doing that in the fourth quarter, not the first. Because a better team is going to figure out a way to shut you down. You got that 18 first quarter points. Don said, okay, we got something for you. They pretty much had Raven Johnson check her the rest of the way. Not by herself, obviously, but Raven was on her. You know, that Raven Johnson who Caitlyn waved off last year, she ain't do much offensively, but defensively, I think she made Caitlyn work. She had 3 or 4 steals directly against Caitlyn. She had a block or 2 against Caitlyn, I believe. So she made her work. And for the rest of that game, Caitlyn only got 12 points. 12 points the rest of the game after that fire start she got, which was fire. She was hot, she was on, but that's not sustainable, even for the best of athletes like herself. You gotta at some point rely on your teammates to do something. You get off that start unless they had buried South Carolina. There was just no way. She did that, and they were still, like I said, she scored 18. South Carolina had 20. If you come out with 18 points, you better hope the other team is in single digits. I was like, y'all praising her, which is good. I'm glad she got all these points. She broke the record, another individual record. I get it, but that's not the best formula for Iowa to win against the better teams. And I was like, no, can we win? Can the Big Ten men? Can we win one? We gotta win something. But I was like, Big Ten, we ain't winning. They're not gonna win. They're gonna lose like they did last year. And Raven, she got a little ounce of thing for Caitlyn waving her off last year, which was another one. That was just total disrespect for her. It was like, just let her shoot. Like I said, Raven, she ain't having offensive, but she played some good defense on Caitlynn Clark. But again, it's just Iowa couldn't put South Carolina away when Caitlyn came out hot like that. And if you don't put a team like South Carolina away, or any good team for that matter, when you come out that hot, if you cannot sustain it or you can't get any help the rest of the way, Iowa's winning percentages, they didn't lose much, but when they did, that was the recipe for them to lose. Caitlyn having to score 40 plus points. There's a difference between having to score 40 plus points against better teams when you're just scoring 40 plus points against lesser teams because you're going free. There's no pressure. You just swinging and having a good old time. That wasn't a good time. That was a pressure intense game, a lot of back and forth, and it wears on you. Where even the best of people, it wears on you, gets to you mentally draining, physically draining, and you can tell by the end of that game when it would become more and more apparent South Carolina was going to possibly win. Caitlyn, she wasn't going off the floor of the offense. She would just come down a couple steps for her court and she was just chucking, or she tried to go one-on-one. That was, and you could see it in her face on the final minutes of that game. She was just exasperated, and she knew she put up her best effort, but she didn't have the team around her to win. I thought last year's Iowa team was much better than this year's Iowa team, and I think it shows in the bench play on both last year, which I thought Iowa had a much better chance to win, but they blew it last year because of the bench. When LSU's team last year, when all their starters were in foul trouble and Iowa could not put them away in that first half. What happened the second half, starters come back in. They had a bench player. I don't remember the lady's name, but the bench player came in and outshot Caitlynn Clark for LSU last year. Why LSU won last year because of the bench. And what happened this year? The bench. 37 points for South Carolina off their bench, 0 for Iowa. Ball game. They bringing in fresh bodies, doing stuff, rotating folks in and out, and meanwhile Caitlynn Clark's having to shoulder everything because Iowa, a good average team, they don't have the personnel that South Carolina had, and we had to put everything on Caitlynn Clark. And I don't care how good you are, at some point that's going to weigh on you during a long season, during a tournament season. That's going to weigh on you at some point, and it started weighing on her, and you could tell. Bench was the difference, 37 points to 0. I don't know if that's ever happened in a championship game where one bench scored that many, another bench laid up a goose egg, but that's part of your difference right there in the game. Came out blistering hot, she could not sustain it. Like I said, that happened earlier in the year when they played Ohio State. She ran out of gas in the fourth quarter and overtime. You can't do that against good teams. It's not a good recipe to win. Great start, looks good individually and statistically, but as far as team goes, that's not best. That's not what Iowa needed for Caitlyn to do. She needed to dial back some and get some of her teammates involved. And again, it brings me back to the individual accomplishments versus the team stuff. Caitlyn got all the individual awards you could think of. I was just looking at them, list after list after list, record after record after record. She is a phenomenal player. No argument, great offensive player. But is that enough? Because, the conversation has been going on all year. Is she the GOAT? She in the conversation. I previously said she's in the conversation. But for me, championships matter. In the team sport, team championships matter. And the other players in that conversation with her have a bunch of their own individual awards, their own individual accolades, and all that other stuff that you can get on the individual basis. Well, on top of that, they got NCAA championships, and they got multiple NCAA championships. So to me, that's what separates them. They got championships. She doesn't when it's all said and done. And then just looking back at her Iowa career, again, as great as it is, as much as I would love to go and watch her play, Iowa has a team during her stay there. They've only gotten one regular season championship, and one regular season conference championship, And that one they had to share with Ohio State because remember that year Ohio State went in there, went into Iowa, and beat them. That's the year Taylor Mikesell outshot Caitlynn Clark. They had to share. If they win that game, they would have had their outright championship, but they couldn't do that. Ohio State beat them. So all the individual awards, all the accolades, I feel you. But one regular season conference championship. She got 3 Big Ten tournament championships, conference championships, but it's a conference champion tournament. I don't put much weight into that. And she got her team to 2 NCAA championships. What she did this year's team, like I said, it was phenomenal. There's no way in the world that this team, this Iowa team, should have made it to the NCAA championship. But they did, and that's because of Caitlynn Clark. So for the folks that want to elevate her to the GOAT based on that, because these Iowa teams should not have been there. Last year, I can make an argument they were good last year because I think Monica Cinzano was that good. They didn't have a Monica Cinzano this year. Stokey, she's all right. She's not Monica Cinzano. O'Grady, all right. She's not Monica Cinzano. I can see him. I said last year was the year for Iowa to win because of Monica Cinzano. I'm surprised they made it this far this year. So for that, hats off to Caitlynn Clark because it's going to be interesting to see what Iowa's going to be next year. Because not only they're losing Caitlynn, but I think they're using Kate Martin as well. They're losing some players, and I don't know if they're going to have. Well, you're not replacing Caitlynn Clark. Let's face it. So it'll be interesting to see what Lisa Bluder does next year. But what Caitlynn did with this team to get them to the finals, hats off to her. You can't take nothing away from her. To me, that still doesn't pit her as the GOAT. She's, like I said, she remains in the conversation, but she's not, to me. There's other players who meet her individual accolades, minus the scoring title, obviously. But that's something that someone else can come along and take. Who knows, if Juju stays there 4 years, she might end up breaking Caitlynn Clark's record. Who knows? But the championships, you can't take those away. Diana Taurasi's championship, you can't take them away. Cheryl Miller, Breanna Stewart's, those stay with them forever. Scoring, just like Caitlynn became the all-time scoring leader, someone else down the road is eventually going to eclipse her mark. Where are we going to call that person the GOAT? Me, I won't if they don't win no championships. Gotta win something. It's a team sport. Gotta win. Gotta have some team accomplishments to go with some of those individual honors. But then, that's just me and my opinion. I mean, it's not tennis where the individual gets everything. It's a team sport. You gotta win a team title or something. And just one shared conference championship, when you stack her up against everybody else that's in that conversation, she falls just a little bit short for me. But I ain't gonna argue against anyone who wants to pit her there. They each their own criteria. That's just me. That's just me. Like I said, following this tournament, nothing's changed. If she had won it, yeah, we would definitely be having a conversation. I said this Iowa team is not all that good, and I think that's going to play out next year when she is not there. We'll see if Iowa wins it again, then Lisa Bluder should be coach of the year. Because if she happens to win the Big Ten title without Caitlynn Clark, when she couldn't win one with her, then Lisa Bluder should be coach of the year, period. Because she hadn't been able to win nothing with Caitlynn Clark there other than some Big Ten tournaments. So, again, for me, it still comes down to Diana Taurasi, Cheryl Miller, and pretending what side of the bed I wake up in the morning. I flip-flop back and forth between those two. That's just me. Other people, they like Candace Parker, Shamika Holdsclaw. There's a bunch of great players, Breanna Stewart. Bunch of great players I think to match up. When you stack them up, individual honors plus team honors, I think they just outdo Caitlynn just by a little bit. But that's my take on the whole March Madness bit. It has come and gone, and the Big Ten again is without any championships. I was hoping Iowa could break the string for the ladies, but they Big Ten women's basketball is almost as bad as the Big Ten men's basketball in terms of championship. Just one title, one title, and we haven't. And the ladies have gotten there in less time than the men have. And I look back, going back to 1982. I think the ladies have made what 4 or 5 appearances, won it once. I think our Purdue team way back in the day, it was in 1999. They got there and won it. That was the only Big Ten women's championship we can claim. I think Ohio State got there one year. Again, my person, Katie Smith, one of my all-time favorite Buckeyes, her freshman year. She took Ohio State to the championship game where she lost to Cheryl Swoops in Texas Tech. And the Big Ten ain't done much since on the women's side, outside of that 1999 win by Purdue. So again, moving forward, same as the men. You think of us being one of the 2 super conferences moving forward, we're going to have some better results in the big 2 sports. Some of these other sports we got on lockdown. Wrestling, we got that on lockdown between Penn State. If it ain't Penn State, it's going to be Iowa, Michigan, or Ohio State. Well, women's hockey. Hats off to our ladies hockey team, our second championship in 3 years. The other team was Wisconsin. So some of these other sports we got on lockdown, but the big 2, basketball, football, Big Ten, got to do better. We want to be one of the super conferences moving forward. We got to do better in the big 2 sports, both the men's and then of course in ladies basketball. We got to do better. That's my March Madness wrap up. Big Ten got to do better moving forward. We went 0 for 2. 0 for 2. Got to do better, Big Ten. We got to do better. But hats off to, again, the UConn, and hats off to Coach Staley and what she accomplished, her 3rd NCAA championship. And again, doing it with 5 brand new starters. So they're probably going to be the heads-on favorite to win it again next year. So we'll see how that plays out. She is losing Cardoso, I believe, but she seems to get bigs like they just fall in her lap. So we'll see how that plays out. But again, congrats to South Carolina and to UConn on the men's side. To wrap up the basketball season, since we are on to the spring game, which will be coming up very, very, very shortly. I'll be checking back in with y'all to talk about the spring game. But our men's team, just to recap or put a cap on the men's and women's seasons. I bet if Gene Smith had to do it all over again, he would have made the Jake Diebler move about a month sooner. Had he made the move about a month sooner, I honestly do believe Ohio State would have made the big dance. It was just a difference in the team. I don't know what it is about Holtman, but his teams could not hold on to leads. I don't know what it is about Holtman. His team could not break the press. But it became evident that with Diebler in the short term, I don't know how much input he had into that stuff while Holtman was here, but you've seen a definite difference once Holtman left. I mean, the 2 games was Indiana and Penn State that we let nearly 20-point leads evaporate in the second half. We win those 2 games, Holtman might still be here and revisionist history, obviously, but we couldn't hold those the leads in those 2 games. And that's why I think those would kept Ohio State out of the dance. But down the stretch with Jake Diebler, his teams were able to hold on to those leads, and his teams were able to break the press. How many turnovers did Holtman's teams have in the final moments of games when they were trying to come back? It's like they just lost all composure, and it was bad coaching, I think, down the stretch. I don't know what it was about Holtman that he couldn't rectify that, but saw a difference, a marked difference under Diebler. And if Gene Smith had to have a mulligan and do that over again, I'm sure he would have made that move about a month sooner, and we might have had a chance in the dance. And see how that would have played out. But I'm glad Diebler is the coach, even with the apparent availability of Calipari. I guess he had expressed interest. I'm not a Calipari fan, so I'm happy with Jake Diebler. I don't know if you folks will agree with that, but I'm happy with Jake Diebler and what he might do, his potential doing. He seems like he really wants to be at Ohio State. And kudos to him. He got his first 5-star recruit, I believe, Marcus Johnson, I believe his name is. The recruit he had already on board, I think, was it Colin Whiter? Colin, I think it was, but he's on board still. He'll be coming in, and from what it looks like, he has already a top-notch class, I believe, are staying committed. So we'll see what Diebler is going to do next year. He's going to have a full year under his belt, a full offseason under his belt. He has Michi coming back, and he had a pretty good year at South Carolina, I believe. I am surprised that Roddy Gale is leaving. I thought he was going to be one of the main pieces next year. So I don't know if he saw the Michi coming on as, I don't know. You never know what's going on with NIL and all this other stuff. But I thought Roddy, that one surprised me. Middleton, not so much. It might be family issues from stuff I've been reading. He needed to be closer to home, so can't never fault a kid for that. But I think for the most part, his core is staying. Devin Royo, I think he showed really good down the stretch. And Thornton is going to be the main piece next year. Akpara, the rumors he is leaving, but he's staying. And Tayson Chapman, he's staying. So he's going to have a good core coming back, and hopefully he can do something with it. And what he shown down the stretch. Hopefully that's just that that push that when you have a change. Hopefully it's just one of the energy boost, but it's actually that's something that will be sustainable moving forward for Jake Diebler, because I think he has a chance to do something here in Columbus, especially if he can keep kids at home, because Marcus is he's an Ohio bred person. So if he can keep Ohio's talent in Ohio and have him go to Ohio State, I think Jake Diebler has a great chance of making Ohio State more of a basketball school. For all the resources, I do not understand why Ohio State is not more of a basketball school than what it's been. Thad Matta had us going there, but his health issues really kicked in, and just it was kicking his butt, and you could see it on the recruiting trail. And Thad Matta he just couldn't. Wasn't able to sustain what he had started building there at Ohio State. So hopefully Diebler can get us back to that and start getting us some of those Greg Oden, Mike Conley type classes to come in here and do some damage. We will see. What I am surprised, well, not so much. I've touched upon it before, is our ladies team, save for last season when they made the deep run. I'm not a fan of Kevin McGuff and how he coaches in the tournaments. To me, he has wasted so much talent since he's been here at Ohio State, because he can bring in talent. There's never been a question about him bringing in the talent. But I previously said he wasted the Kelsey Mitchell years, because he had some really good teams when she was here. Talking about being on the scoring list, if they had made deeper runs in the Big Ten tournament, NCAA tournament, Kelsey Mitchell would be much higher up on that scoring. Well, she might be. She's number 3 right now. You can't get much higher than number 3. She was at number 2 for a long time. She may have challenged Kelsey Plum had they made deeper runs in the NCAA tournaments, the Big Ten tournaments. But I don't know what it is about Kevin McGuff teams. They don't do that. Well, I do know what it is to a degree, because you saw it this year. He brings in the bodies and he doesn't use them. He gets locked in on 7 8 players, and that's who he uses. That's his rotation, period. Rebecca improved tremendously. I ain't gonna try her last name. I botched it already. Rebecca, she improved tremendously. She had to step up when Dorka Juhas left for UConn. She did a phenomenal job stepping up, but she's not a low post big. She's a perimeter big. She's more comfortable out on the perimeter. She gets bullied in the low post, and I think that played out down the stretch. Maryland out rebounded us, and Duke in the tournament game out rebounded us. I mean, coming back from a 16-point deficit, which I never thought I would see happen, but Duke did it. And Columbus, no doubt, but again, that's surprise, but not surprise. It's Kevin McGuff, and that's his track record for tournament games. But I thought he brought in Tyre Parks to handle some of that stuff in the low post, but he didn't play her. He relying on Taylor Theory and Cody McMahon to be your rebounders is just not good basketball. Now when you got Park sitting there on the bench, and as good as athletically as Taylor Theory is, she's not. She doesn't have the bulk and girth to go against some of these low post centers that they were going up against. That's what Parks was for, and he didn't use her. You lost Taylor Mikesell to graduation. You have Emma Shoemate sitting there on the bench, your best 3-point shooter, and he didn't play her. Ohio State's a guard-heavy team. I get that, knew that, but you can't tell me there were not minutes for Emma Shoemate to get on the court and spread the floor out to give Cody McMahon some driving lanes. Because Celeste Taylor, her three-point shooting improved drastically over the year, but she's not the three-point threat Emma Shoemate is. Yeah, you give up something defensively, but there were opportunities to get Emma a lot more minutes than what she got. So I'm not shocked that she transferred out. Not shocked that Diana Collins transferred out. Prolific scorer in high school, she came here and rotted on the bench. And where's the development? To be having 20, 30-point lead, 20-point leads, okay, exaggerating, 20-point leads in second halves, and he wouldn't pit his bench in. Kai Henderson, surprised she may transfer still. Rotten on the bench. Prolific scorer in high school, she can't get in the game even in blowout situations. Diana Collins, she got in, but once the season got going, her court time became less and less. Surprised Ricky Harris is leaving, but J.C. Sheldon, that was her girl. She probably doesn't want to play without J.C., wants to go take her stuff elsewhere, and plus with the talent coming in, she wanted to go see what else was out there to offer. But I'm not surprised at all that Emma Shoemate transferred out. I thought she was horribly underutilized, and I'm sorry to see her go because he mismanages his bench, to my opinion. He doesn't do his bench well. He doesn't develop his players on the bench when he has the opportunity to do so. So it's going to be interesting to see how he handles the incoming class. Because he's good in the portal. He probably works the portal better than any coach on campus, save for this last season what Ohio State did on football. But the portal, he's always been on top of the portal, even before the NIL stuff. He's always brought in top-notch players to fit in. He just doesn't use them right. It's going to be interesting to see how he does next year. He has Jelani Cambridge coming in, the number 3 or number 2 overall recruit, and she's going to be a good thing, being that we're losing J.C. Sheldon. Got Madison Green coming back, but she's not. Due to her knee injury, she's not the prolific scorer that some of these players are that left. I think Diana Collins was a much better scorer than Madison Green, and Miss Shoemate's a better shooter than Madison Green. Madison Green is your ultimate point guard. She'll run your offense. She's a pest on defense, but she's not the scorer. I think the team is in good hands with Madison Green being the mentor to Jelani Cambridge and the other guards they got coming in. Hopefully Kaya Henderson stays, because if you've seen her high school tape, she can score. Kevin McGuff just won't play her. So we will see how all that plays out next year for the basketball Bucks. But it was an interesting basketball year. March Madness played out the way it thought it was, especially on the women's side. South Carolina was always going to be hard to beat. The men's teams, I had no idea who was what, who was favored. I just watched the games at the end of the day. Cause I don't know none of the players. Unless Ohio State was playing them, I didn't know. It's just hard to follow the men's game now because the one that it's not as interesting anymore. The men's teams, but I trudged through it and I try to watch anyway. But the women's game this year in particular was way more interesting than the men's. Way more storyline and it was just a lot more entertaining all the way around. But again, so to take on March Madness again, the spring game is coming up. Probably doing we'll try to do a live post-spring game wrap up on that and get some comments on how the spring game plays out and stuff. So that'll be very interesting. So again, seeing me for the first time, I do talk Ohio State Buckeyes a lot, but trying to expand and talk more about college sports in general, talking it from a fan's point of view. So again, if you If you're feeling what you heard this time out, please hit that like button. And if you enjoy content in general about Ohio State, college sports, a lot of stuff to talk about coming up. Realignment's not done, the expansion of the playoffs, or the spring game, the whole lot of stuff going on in the college football world. So again, take a brother out, give a brother a chance, and hit subscribe, hit notify, all that good stuff. You know the keywords that that we need y'all to do to help this channel grow. So again, until next time, appreciate you all. OHIO, go Bucks. I'm out.